The relationship between the United States and Iran is a complex tapestry woven through decades of political intrigue, cultural exchanges, and shifting alliances. The roots of this relationship can be traced back to the early 20th century, when Iran, then known as Persia, was a focal point of geopolitical interests due to its vast oil reserves. In the aftermath of World War I, the United States began to take a more active role in the Middle East, driven by a need for oil and a desire to counter British and Soviet influence in the region. This marked the beginning of a relationship that would oscillate between cooperation and conflict, ultimately leading to one of the most significant upheavals in Iranian history. In 1953, the United States orchestrated a coup to overthrow Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister, Mohammad Mossadegh. Mossadegh had nationalized the Iranian oil industry, which had previously been under British control. The coup, known as Operation Ajax, was executed with the help of the CIA and resulted in the reinstatement of the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. The Shah's regime, supported by the United States, was characterized by authoritarian rule, modernization efforts, and a strong anti-communist stance. However, the Shah's reliance on American support alienated many Iranians, who viewed his government as a puppet regime, leading to growing discontent among various segments of society. By the late 1970s, dissatisfaction with the Shah's rule had reached a boiling point. Economic issues, political repression, and cultural alienation fueled widespread protests. The revolution was not a monolithic movement. It included a diverse coalition of leftists, Islamists, and nationalists. The most prominent figure to emerge during this time was Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, who rallied the masses against the Shah's regime. In February 1979, the Shah fled Iran, and Khomeini returned from exile, establishing a new Islamic republic. This dramatic shift not only transformed Iran's political landscape, but also marked a turning point in US-Iran relations, as the new regime viewed the United States as a primary adversary. The U.S. Embassy hostage crisis in November 1979 further deteriorated relations. Iranian students stormed the embassy in Tehran, taking 52 American diplomats and citizens hostage. The crisis lasted for 444 days, capturing global attention and deepening anti-American sentiment in Iran. In the United States, the crisis was a national humiliation, leading to a re-evaluation of foreign policy in the region. The failure of a rescue mission and the subsequent election of Ronald Reagan in 1980 brought a new approach to US-Iran relations, but the wounds of the hostage crisis would linger for decades. The Iran-Iraq War, which began in 1980, further complicated the relationship between the United States and Iran. Initially, the US maintained a neutral stance, but as the war dragged on, American interests shifted. The US began to support Iraq, led by Saddam Hussein, providing intelligence and military aid. This decision was driven by a desire to contain the spread of Iranian influence in the region. The war resulted in massive casualties and economic devastation for both countries, but it also solidified Iran's resolve against perceived Western imperialism. As the years progressed, the issue of Iran's nuclear program emerged as a focal point of tension between the United States and Iran. In the early 2000s, concerns about Iran's intentions grew, leading to diplomatic efforts aimed at curbing its nuclear ambitions. The US and its allies imposed sanctions, hoping to pressure Iran into compliance. However, these measures often had the opposite effect, further entrenching Iranian nationalism and anti-American sentiment. In 2015, a landmark agreement known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action was reached, providing Iran with relief from sanctions in exchange for limits on its nuclear program. This agreement was hailed as a diplomatic breakthrough, but it was met with skepticism and opposition, particularly from Israel and hardliners within the US, The election of Donald Trump in 2016 marked a significant shift in U.S. policy toward Iran. The Trump administration withdrew from the nuclear agreement in 2018, reinstating harsh sanctions aimed at crippling Iran's economy. This decision sparked a series of confrontations, including attacks on oil tankers in the Persian Gulf and the assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in January 2020. The escalation of tensions raised fears of a military confrontation as both nations engaged in a dangerous game of brinkmanship. Today, the relationship between the United States and Iran remains fraught with tension, shaped by decades of historical grievances and geopolitical maneuvering. The Biden administration has expressed a willingness to re-engage in diplomatic talks, but the path forward is complicated by domestic politics in both countries and the broader regional dynamics. The Iranian populace continues to grapple with the legacy of the revolution and the impact of sanctions, while the US seeks to balance its interests in the Middle East with the imperative of global security. As the world watches, the future of US-Iran relations hangs in the balance, a testament to the enduring complexities of international diplomacy. As we navigate the complex landscape of international relations, we must confront a pressing question. Does the United States possess the moral authority to control another nation? Consider the implications of intervention, historically justified by the pursuit of democracy, freedom, or humanitarian aid. Yet we must ask ourselves, at what cost? Is the imposition of our values on another culture a form of liberation or an act of imperialism? Furthermore, when we contemplate the legitimacy of war, we must weigh the consequences. Are we truly acting in the name of peace, or are we perpetuating cycles of violence and suffering? I challenge you to reflect on these questions. What defines a just cause for war? Who benefits from our interventions, and who pays the price? In the end, the answers may reveal more about our own values than those of the countries we seek to influence.